today I'll be talking about a few updates that I've done to my 3T Strada road bike. So let's just get straight into it after I cancel this call from this annoying person. The big upgrade, even though visually not so apparent, is the wheelset. Now, I've been using the Head Vanquish RC6 Pros for 4 years now, and yeah, for road riding I've also tried the Fords and a few other wheel sets, but it really is my favorite. They're very stable in the wind, very fast, and really robust. So luckily all of these features have been carried over to the new version. So this is the latest V62, and it's more of an evolution rather than a revolution. So the hub and all the basic designs are unchanged, except we now do have a slightly revised rim profile, so we get even more crosswind stability, slightly wider internal width to better support wider tires, both structurally and aerodynamically, of course, and slightly lower drag, with the weight pretty much being unchanged. So my impressions of this wheel set are really positive so far. Now, I haven't really done some comparative aero testing yet, so I can't comment on that, but the feel in descending, in crosswinds, on the braking, the stability of them, it's really great, and there is a noticeable slight improvement in the ride quality from the previous versions, so that's a big thumbs up for me. And also the fact that the weight hasn't been changed. I have outfitted these with all the previous parts that I had, so it's the classified system at the rear, TT, TR tires from Continental in the 28mm width, and Hope rotors, classified cassette, etc. So really rather similar. And yeah, as I said, visually, if it were not for the stickers, you probably wouldn't notice this change, but in terms of riding, there is an improvement, so really happy about that. And of course, there's no downside really, so yeah, really recommend going for this wheel set if you're considering a road race bike. So that's one of the changes, and the other two or three, I would say, are done with the drivetrain. So starting from the front and going backwards, I do have a different crank length. Now, previously I've been using 165s on my road bike for the past 3 years, and now I'm back on 170s. And this was really a bit of an accident, because we've been testing with a client where I've put him on the shorter cranks that I use on his time trial bike, and he really liked those, so I left those cranks with him for further testing at home, and I got his 170s instead. And I put them on this bike, and I have to say that I really like the change, because to be honest, this position, unlike a time trial position, is nowhere near as aggressive. And yeah, with that, the 170s are just fine, and when climbing it feels slightly better, with slightly more instant torque in there. So yeah, I think I'll just keep these on and not backward another set of 165s, because there's just no point. And this really isn't a huge thing to talk about, but the reason I wanted to mention this is a lot of times people just jump on trends even if they don't have necessarily the background or the real reason or motivation to do it. They just do it because everyone does it. And yeah, this is a good example that you need to make changes according to your needs and your particular needs. So yeah, shorter cranks are not always better, that's the short of it, and they are infinitely better if your position and setup requires it. So that's the key takeaway here, just like with many other fit related things. The 165s, of course, weren't bad at all. It's just that my previous bikes had more aggressive geometries in the front, so my hip angle is a bit more closed, and my saddle was a bit further back. So those kind of positions do prefer or do favor shorter cranks. With this particular one, not needed at all. So that's one thing. The second thing in my drivetrain that has been changed is the chain, but the catalyst for that was a change in the cassette. So as you probably know by now, the classified rear hub system does use a proprietary cassette, which has always been my concern in terms of shift quality. As I've talked about this earlier, but just to sum it up quickly, when I first got it, I tried it with the Shimano chain. I had the 1130 cassette, so relatively tight range for a 12-speed cassette. And with the Shimano chain, it just doesn't shift very well at all because it's not optimized for that. So then I changed for a KMC chain, and it was miles better. So I stuck with that, but KMC chains are really not my favorite. Not great with waxing and other stuff, so not a fan. So in the end, I went for a YBN chain, but that didn't work either. So I went back to the KMC with 1130. But my issue with the gearing is that it's 58 on the front. Obviously, that's a huge gear. And when I rode in the mountains, I often had to go for the largest cog at the back or the second largest, and that's basically the least efficient gear ratio of any drivetrain, including this one. And I wanted to avoid that as much possible, so my idea was to try an 1134 cassette, which is the biggest road cassette they offer at the moment. And that created a slight issue because since the cassette, the largest cog, is a lot bigger in diameter, you have to obviously tension the derailleur in the B tension adjustment so it moves further out from the cassette, so it clears it. But this creates a bigger gap at the lower end of the cassette with the harder gears, which suddenly with the KMC chain even kind of ruined the shifting, and I couldn't do anything about it to adjust it. And then I reached out to Classified to ask about it, and they told me that actually the cassette is primarily optimized for SRAM flat top chains. And because I had already the new group set from SRAM around, I've sold that to a client, but I still have some spare chains. So I decided to give it a go. So this bike, now it's complete mix-up of parts, with the latest edition being the SRAM Red E1 flat top chain, so the latest version with the cutouts. And the shifting has been flawless ever since, and it's just really, really damn good, even with the big cassette. So I'm happy with that. Obviously, it does raise the question of efficiency, because historically SRAM chains were not the most efficient on the market, or in fact the least efficient, on contrary the most durable. So I don't really have information on this new one yet. I'm just hoping that due to inputs they have improved the efficiency of this one compared to the previous D1 version. The shift quality is great, the noise is very, very minimal, even when cross-chained. So yeah, I really, really do like how the bike performs. Not to mention, of course, the wider cassette. I don't generally like those, but with this kind of setup, where you don't have to stick to the big ring and you can shift the classified hub at any time, you're much freer with that kind of shift. So I just really don't mind the big gaps, because I can smooth it out with that ratio in the rear cassette. And basically I never have to use the largest cog, which effectively makes my drivetrain 11 speed, but it also makes it a lot more efficient, so I don't care. and there's that very, very low bailout gear in case I need it. However, there's one more thing that I might need to work on. Previously, I've mentioned that because of the now rather extreme position of the chain, it sometimes hits the SLF motion cage, and I did some modification to that to get rid of it. But now with a different cassette, it's all different again. So there's no collision with the cage at any point except the largest cog, which, yeah, I don't really use that often, but still, in case I do, I want that to disappear. So a bit more Dremel work will be needed on that cage. Otherwise, the bike has been performing flawlessly, I have to say. I have also fixed the chain wrap issue with the added tension on the rear derailleur, to the point that I probably will not be needing this anymore because it just adds complication. You know, where I notice it that for some reason, if the chain is shifted to the upper half of the cassette and you backpedal the bike or push it backwards, the chain tends to drop. But that is the case often with the 12-speed drivetrains. Even in the box standard Shimano version, it does happen. So when it does that, it's quite annoying to put back on because you have to again force the not very stiff chain guide to, yeah, it's just a bit awkward. So that could be prevented maybe with stiffer chain guide or no chain guide at all. I have yet to explore that. And yeah, the other thing that I have now is with the new wheels, I also do have a new power shift rear hub. And I've noticed that these take a bit of riding to break in. So the seal is quite tight at the beginning. So when you're freewheeling, the freewheel actually slightly pushes the chain forward, which makes it loose on the top span, and also, well, promotes, I would say, the possibility of it being dropped. But on the old wheel that I've now sold to a customer, that has disappeared already because I've been riding it for quite a while. So I'll need to do the same for this, for the seal to wear out a bit, so there's less stiction on there. But yeah, otherwise that's pretty much it. No real changes to the bike apart from these. In the last video about this, I also talked about maybe repositioning the shift button, but at this point I'm so used to it being here that I don't really want to do that anymore. It'll probably stay that way. Although I've been offered recently a chance of having the left lever. It is possible, apparently. I didn't know that earlier, but it is possible to modify it in a way that it actuates the classified shift button. So that should be neat. But honestly, I didn't really have the time or capacity to think about that. And I was also considering switching the bike over to SRAM now that the chain is SRAM and I'm tied to it. So yeah, this will be evolving in the near future for sure. Yeah, for now, that's all about this bike. I hope you have found this useful and you'll be able to make some educated guesses for your equipment based on this information. If you would like to receive more updates about this in the future, then of course stay tuned to the channel and subscribe. That's all for today. Thanks for watching and see you next time.